Hey, Tom here, FlipAnything USA, and we're going to talk about the 2022 real estate trap, as I call it. And I've seen this stuff before, and I kind of think we're poised for it right now myself. It's interesting because we've had 7% inflation, which is like, that's like when I started in real estate. It was like in the early 80s, like in 1981 or 2. Is when
Yeah. Oh, that's me. Hold on. There you go. You got it.
okay, sorry. Anyways, so we got some people loading up in the Zoom here, and we'll talk about some of this stuff. And I got Darius here with me. He's in the Zoom. You can see he's also not too far away from me.
Literally arms reach.
Yeah, we got too many buttons, too many things here. But I hope everybody's doing well. Anyhow, hey, so we'll be right back.
Hey guys.
All right. So you got control of the Zoom right there?
Yeah.
Okay, very good. Anyways, so, I was thinking, I'm very frustrated. I've been going through, looking at different places to invest in right now. I got some money burning a hole in my pocket, and I'm real happy with all the investments that I've made this year. But the stuff I've been seeing come on the market, it's just there's like a shortage of commercial and industrial space out there. It's just gobbled up as fast as it goes on the market, and people are getting real proud of the space, and they're asking big bucks, and a lot of it doesn't even pencil. And this is like the beginning of it's like a perfect storm when people just put ridiculous prices on it, and other people buy it for that. And so I'm going to explain what I'm talking about. So I'm not saying there's a crisis in the sense that everything's falling apart and everything's terrible. It's always a good time to invest. I've been doing it my whole life. I started in tough times, tougher than this, by the way, way tougher than this, if you call this tough. Look, those of you who don't know, I got a book, Wake Up and Smell the Real Estate. It's been a bestseller on Amazon, Kindle, and Audible. And I have a mentorship. Go to FlipAnything USA and go there, and you'll see people that have had great success. And you can watch these videos of these folks. Some of them may even pop in while we're on here today. But so let's jump over to LoopNet, because see, LoopNet is a source. And I've been actually looking in around in parts of Texas. Also, I've been looking in Clearwater, Florida. I was in Clearwater recently, and I looked at a nice big center there. And I looked at something else out in Killeen, Texas, I think too. It was like almost 80,000 square feet. It's a pretty big place. Really weird deal.
Like location-wise, or just what didn't support?
Well, it's what the fallback is they'll have these huge centers, and whatever business went out. Like there's malls. You can see them. Look at huge empty malls. 200,000 square foot malls that are going up for auction, and they're empty, and it's just kind of creepy. You walk in and you're looking at a huge expanse.
Yeah.
Fountain in the middle, and elevators and escalators, and I've never owned an escalator. and, I've owned an elevator in a building before, but I never an escalator. And it's just kind of creepy, eerie, because what's happened. But like here's a property right now. This is one that I would love to buy if it was reasonably priced. It is not. This it's got a 5.5 cap. Okay, it's 10,000 square feet for $4 million. Okay, it should be twice that big for that price, and even then, I just don't get it. It's just crazy. And I think that, like, let me put it this way: like in our leases, generally in our leases, we'll have a cost of consumer price index increase. So basically, it's inflation, follows inflation. So with that in mind, I could raise rents on most of my tenants that are in triple nets 7%. That's a
That's
big hit.
crazy. That is a big
On
hit.
6, 7, or let's just say I just went through the numbers. So I've got one of my tenants. They bumped up $1,000 as of January because the taxes had actually been affected to that much. And I was looking at the lease, and we'd actually crossed out the CPI increase. But smart, good for them that they beat me on that one, because it would have cost them $490 a month.
So, like you said, with this year, you increased it because of the taxes, and with that 7% CPI thing, is it 7% on the whole thing, or just
Annually,
the rent?
every year you adjust the CPI. It's been on average about 1.25 to say
Jeez.
2.25 for the last 10 years that I've seen.
And now
So it's
it's
not a
7.
huge thing, and it's good to have those. When you put people in leases, and I've got properties like this one you see behind me here. This is like a commercial center, and these types of properties, the taxes go up, and you just want to pass the taxes on, and or the cost of living going up, because every lease I put anybody in, usually I won't give them more than 5 years, and at the end of 5 years, what we'll do is we'll adjust it to be in what's more fair market, and by having the CPI have raised them every year up to that point, it's still not going to keep up with what it is in 5 years, but it'll be closer. So now, instead of raising them, say $500-$600, say, hey, now everything's the same, but it's $500 or $1,000 more a month. Or I got some that are going to hit some really big numbers. They're going to get some shocking news, but at least they're halfway there. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So you raise them 600, but they've already been raised up 300 over a period of time. So it's not as hard of a transition. Doesn't hurt as much, is what I'm basically getting at. And I see our Zoom class filling up. It's nice to see, or I should say the Zoom participants, not the class, but some of the people from class. But anyways, but so also, by the way, if you just got here, folks, listen, I've been buying and selling real estate for 40 years, and I've got the mentorship and the book and all, but I've got just the smartest people in this channel that subscribe and ask great questions. You're going to hear some soon. But if you would, please hit that subscribe button, hit that like button. Just takes a second. Just smash that button. It helps the channel. And comment often. I'd appreciate it. Anyhow, Darius is off camera, but he's actually this guy you see right here.
I'm here.
Yep. And so also we got some people here in the audience or in the Zoom I can see that I know are looking for some commercial properties and different things. And so we can start by talking to some people here.
Yeah. Before, and you guys turn your cameras on, and if you want to just talk or whatever.
Sure.
But what is the trap, Tom? Do you want to wait to get to that?
Yeah, well, I mean, the trap that this is what'll get you. Look, everybody in general. This is for people in residential as well, because. But it's really pretty cruel with the commercial industrial type properties. So right now, this building here, and I'm just using this as an example, and I should probably piss off somebody further away, but this number I would never pay. There's just no way would I pay $400 a foot for this property.
Yeah.
There's just no way. I know. I mean, and even at $400 a foot, that's a 5.5 cap. You know what I mean? And so here's the reason why. Right now, you can get money right now as cheap as 3 3/4. I just closed a loan the other day, 3 3/4 fixed. That's a nice rate. And I borrowed money at 5.5. So if I tried to buy this, say, 5 years ago, the rate would have been 5.5%. So in other words, it wouldn't have made any money, if I borrowed it all.
Yeah.
Or it just wouldn't make sense. So keep in mind that if I bought this property and I put 20% down and I financed, the other 80%, in this case, I guess that would be the other.
I don't see the price. Where's the price?
The price is right here.
The $4 million.
$4 million.
Okay, gotcha.
Right. So if I put $800,000 and I borrowed $3.2 million at, let's just say at 4%. Okay. Now and on this one, I would make 1.5% on the borrowed money, if this is all accurate.
Because you get yours at 3 1/4. Is that what you said?
Oh, no, I'm sorry. Let's just say I borrowed money today at 3 3/4. But for make it so at 3 3/4%, I let's say I borrow 80% of this money. and or let's just say 75. That makes it simple. $3 million. So yeah, I borrow $3 million, and on that $3 million, I borrow it at 3.75%. Well, that's going to allow me to make, and they got 5.5%. Just call this 6. So if there's 2.25, so I'm going to make 2.25% on $3 million. So I'm going to make over $60,000 a year. God, that's terrible. It's just not enough on the borrowed money on this deal, right?
I calculated if my math is correct. If my math's correct, I calculated 82,500. Did I do that wrong?
I used 2% as the amount.
Okay.
Would you use 2.25?
Yeah.
Yeah, 2.25 sounds closer to 82. Yeah.
Okay.
So you're right, 2.25, because you did it based on the 3.75. Okay, I rounded up on this, and I rounded up on the borrowed money to make it just roughly 2%. But either way, here's the trap, though. You go buy that property, and look, inflation's going up. So they raise the rent. These people decide, we're gonna eat it. We're gonna go ahead and pay the higher rent. And now all of a sudden this thing pencils because they're paying higher rates. Well, they got to raise their prices and everything else. So here's what happens. These guys start falling off. Let's say these businesses start going out of business. And I'm not saying these guys will, but this type of business, a retail center, they start going out of business or renegotiating their lease to stay. Say, hey, we ain't making it. We can't do it. So the rents go down. But let's just say the rents adjust down to being whatever. They go down enough that there's really no longer any kind of spread or money to be made on this thing between when you borrow that much. So this optimism that things are worth so much, there's not a history of people surviving. You know what I mean? And all these people are going to be subject, if they got a decent triple net lease, their CPI, they're going to have their rents are going to go up. They would have gone up 7%. And maybe one of the reasons why this looks so good is because the CPI's kicked in for this year, for this month. And I don't want to pick on this particular property, but this is just an example, just for the sake of numbers, that it's a residential property.
So when you were talking about the trap, because you were explaining it to me yesterday. So essentially, and correct me if I'm wrong, essentially what can happen, right?
Yeah, I'll get to the trap.
Okay.
Sorry. So here's what happens. You buy this property, and you're making a 2%. You're making 2% on the borrowed money, okay? Well, and right now you're borrowing the money really cheap, right? So you're borrowing the money really cheap. Well, we have this inflation. The only way to really curb inflation is to raise the interest rate. So the Fed's going to end up raising the interest rate.
Just talked about that. They just had a meeting.
Yeah, and that's the shot across the bow. Once in a while they have a meeting, and sometimes they don't always follow through. But they're saying it's our intention to raise the rate. Well, when they start raising the rate, it starts reducing this cap rate. And so as that cap rate goes down, so does the value of the property for somebody else that has to borrow money at a higher rate to buy it. So if I bought it at a 4 cap and it's making, or at 4% and it's making 2%, and now the cost of that money goes up 2%, it just wiped out. I mean, and the rate can go up 2%, by the way. It's been, when I started, my interest rates on average were about 10%. And that's in the 80s. And that's the other thing that's kind of weird, is we had inflation back then, even at that high rate.
And so me and Tom were looking it up, and we found out that the inflation rate hasn't been this high, this fast, since 1982.
And that's, in 1982 is when I started.
Exactly.
So that's when right about the time I bought my first property, about 40 years ago.
So I was going to ask you, when you talk about when you started and you had that 9% interest, was it because of something like this that happened, like in 82?
No.
Is that why? It was
it was coming down from 14.
Wow. And
yeah, go back and look at the rates. The rates were as high as 14% to buy a house. It was crazy high. In fact, you at that time, I could put money in the bank and get 10% interest. I was a kid, I had like a paper route, that type of thing. But they call them T-bills because they paid 10%. So right now, if you go out there and you buy, if you pay too much for something, than or what I call too much. You give yourself such a narrow margin, a cap rate of only, say, whatever, 6%, 5.5%. And then when the interest rate goes up, because they're going to raise that, they're going to raise it to knock down,
all that debt.
Yeah, they got to raise it just to stop the inflation. I mean, it's getting too expensive to live. Everything's ridiculously expensive. I mean, I'm blown away. And so, but as soon as they do that, you go in and guess what? A lot of these guys that are putting together these funds,
Yeah.
I see them making some mistakes already.
Because they're going to overbuy, or what do you foresee?
I see them buying stuff that when the value goes up, they're not going to be able to get rid of it, what they paid for it. And a lot of people are going to be throwing money at these guys.
So who does that hurt? Does that hurt the people that put the fund together, or the people that invested?
It hurts them all. Well,
who does it more?
I would make the argument it hurts both,
Gotcha.
but it kills the people that invest because they're the ones that are really going to suffer the loss. And a lot of little investors are going to get eaten up. But and listen, I've seen that kind of carelessness in the past. I'd seen REITs where the buyer for the REITs, they're just trying to fill that hole and buy something. They're not that careful all the time. You know what I mean?
It's not
the
their
criteria
money.
isn't tight enough sometimes. And you got to remember, because of managing, the guy that manages the fund, he makes, like, on average, these guys like to charge 2% on the entire fund. Yeah. So they can pay themselves, a couple $100,000 on a $10 million fund.
Yeah. I just bought a REIT this weekend.
Hey, Tom.
Yeah. Hey, Chris, how's it going?
Hey, couple notes. One, when you're driving for dollars and looking at commercial properties and stuff, that one in particular that you showed, there's been businesses in and out of that strip center a lot over the past few years. Would that be a red flag for you as an investor?
Sure. Yeah. Well, that's what I'm saying. There's, when it's just like if you buy an existing note, if you buy a mortgage, you'd like to know that they've been making payments on it for several years. Well, same with the building. You'd like to know that the business that's in there, and I better give these guys a break. I don't look like I'm picking on these guys.
Anyway, come on, Tom. I thought you said.
I mean, there's a place there I like to go. But I guess the other question was, when you're looking at commercial, buying with a tenant already established versus, you get a new tenant, you get to open the doors for a new tenant right away. Which do you like better, or does it just depend?
Got a wine invitation. Anyways, popping up on the screen.
So, did you hear his question?
Yes. Sorry. Say that again. Sorry, Chris.
Yeah. So with commercial, do you like an established tenant? When you take over a deal, do you like an established tenant that's been there for a little while?
Absolutely.
But they haven't really played according to your rules so far, or would you rather start fresh with a brand new tenant?
What does my rules mean? What do you mean?
Well, if you're going to adjust rates or how they operate, or
well, look, I'm actually just romanced a tenant into moving into a big building. I've got both retail and warehouse. I got both sides of their business now, retail and warehouse, and it's fantastic. They're a 35-year-old company, and long track record, longevity. You know what I mean? They ain't going anywhere. They got the market tied up for what they do, and anyways, we gotta change that for Herbert. You really got an uncomplimentary angle there. Just gonna give you a heads up.
Anyway. Sorry, guys. Sorry.
Yeah.
There's a lot of jokes there, but we'll let you off the hook, Herbert.
Yeah. Anyways. Well, listen, I like any tenant that's been in business for a long time. This last commercial strip center, and heck, might as well just go to it. Where the hell is it? I can't remember. This is funny. This is the This is the place that Darius found him in front of the other day.
Oh yeah. I was out there bird dogging an Ubering, and I recognized the signs, and I didn't know why. And it's because I've been looking at the videos, and
Oh hell, this thing's way the hell off too. My property's down here somewhere. Uh, all right. Well, I'm not even finding the property now. Anyway, let's just talk about a strip center. Like I bought a strip center 6 years ago for $100 a foot.
mm-hmm.
It's about the same as that.
Wow.
Maybe not quite as good, but it's not that far off. And the place next to the one I paid $100 a foot for, the guy next to me, the sister property, he paid $200 a foot for.
Mm-hmm.
And this is like 6 years ago now.
Mm-hmm.
And so those, just by looking at what's today's market, I mean, I could dump those for $350 a foot and make $3 million on the one at least. And I don't want to do it. I don't even want to mess with it, to be honest. And so I'm in a position that I'm okay because I'm holding it. The interest rate is locked down.
Yeah.
Nothing's going to change on it.
Yeah.
And so that's comfortable. But to Chris's question, I had people in there, tenants there, that were 20 years. I had a vet. I had a couple of loan companies, still do now. A hair place, a wig place, a martial arts studio. And those are kind of what the staple things that are in those kinds of strip centers. But if somebody, I could raise everybody's rent, and they'll be like, yeah, okay, well, on renewal or whatever, or I can jump them all 7% right now with the CPI deal, right? Which that 7% serves me because it raises, you know what I mean? That's not a tax. I'm passing the taxes through anyways. Whenever the taxes go up, I'm passing that through. But I have the right to raise it 7%.
So that you can fight kind of.
Yeah, in fact, just do the math. I get about $310,000 a year.
Okay.
In rent. So 7. So I can add what, 21,000 roughly.
You said you get 310.
310,000.
Oh,
that's the gross rents. But so take that times
3.
Yeah. No, take it times 0.07. It should be 21,000 right in there somewhere. So I had 21,000 to that. That 21,000 is money. It's not like passing through and paying down the tax bill, because I also can raise on the tax bill. This is the beauty of triple net, leases. And I'm not saying
700.
What's that?
21,700. You're right.
Yeah, 21,700. Okay, so just because I have the right to raise the price, to be honest, doesn't mean I'm necessarily going to do it.
Yeah.
Now on the taxes, they're going to get all the taxes. I'll fight them. I'll go to court. I'll do whatever I got to do to fight the taxes and beat the taxes down. But as far as this is something I can say, hey, you know what? I'm only going to exercise 2%, half of that or a third of that or something like that, or maybe none of it if things are really tough. You know what I mean? But so this is the trap. Somebody. And a lot of this new YouTube wealth, these guys, I see a lot of stupid mistakes being done by people that, they're a realtor for 4 years and then, they make $1 million or $5 million a year on YouTube, and then they start buying, and they buy foolishly. It's because that's new money.
Yeah.
New money always gets wasted,
Yeah.
by the way. It just always does. And they jump into the crypto market and all this other stuff. But they can afford, what's sad is those guys can afford to play around and lose their ass because they have this huge replenisher of $500,000 a month, or $500,000 or 10, or several million a year. They can make a lot of mistakes that the people watching them that might even actually believe them and be influenced. They call them influencers, right?
Yeah.
They're influencing these guys to make terrible investments, but they can afford to make the terrible investments. In fact, that's part of the show. Watch me. You remember Dogecoin, Dogcoin? I think I keep calling it Doge. That guy, he was a millionaire. I think it went up to 60 cents. It's down to 13 cents now. So it's just pathetic. But hey, so let's go back to the Zoom. Get ready in the Zoom.
I saw Garrett flash his face earlier. I don't know if he had a
Sorry,
question for
Garrett.
you.
Yeah, Garrett. Hey, Chris, did I cover you, Chris? I appreciate you jumping in. Also, congrats. Did you get that deal closed? Chris is in the class, by the way, and he flipped a property for 80 grand. It looks like that he paid. What'd you pay for that thing? 40, 30?
Yeah. So, yeah, thanks for answering my question. Yeah, so I bought that lot with the mobile home right next to a house that I bought. And it was, I mean, the mobile home was trash. It really was. It was not livable. It needed a lot of work. I could have put maybe $8,000 into it to
Yeah.
make it livable.
And I remember looking at the pictures on it, and I was saying, don't haul it away, and you did good. But
Right.
I
I
didn't see it to the full extent that you did. And it sounds like it was a good move.
Yeah, and I was like, you know what, I want my capital back, and I paid 40 cash for it and locked it up. Well, I got somebody to buy the mobile home for 3,000, and they hauled it away,
Right.
which was a win.
Saved you $3,000.
My yeah, so they paid me $3,000 to haul it away, and right now it is under contract. They're still in their option period, but the lady's really excited about it. She wants to build a home on it.
Are they going to pay cash?
And they're going to pay cash.
See,
yeah.
Wow.
So,
and this is what I tell people. I mean, it's much easier. This is why for you guys to throw money in a fund under 40 years old, and you got 10, 20, 30, 40, 50, complete waste of money to throw 10 or 50 grand or 100 grand into a fund. It's so stupid because you're throwing your money into something you have no control over. Okay, now, if you're well established, sorry, go ahead.
And so I think, well, to your point, Tom, like if people know wisely how to invest into real estate and only take good deals, then stay away from the funds or, pouring money into funds. I've got a couple thousand that I put into the stock, into a 401k every year, but it's just a little extra, something on the side. But I'm taking that money and praying this thing goes through. But once this thing goes through, that was essentially my salary from last year.
Well, that's what I'm saying. Yeah, that was my point. Is Chris doubled his money? He made 100% on his money, and he really, if you want to do it, look at things on an annual rate. He really made 300% on his money because he did it in a third of a year. Correct?
Yeah. Not even that.
Yeah. So that's the kind of thing that you can do if you treat your money like a tool. And Chris also, by the way, has my book, Wake Up and Smell the Real Estate. And he's taking the mentorship. You got to plug the book. But
no, and
true.
Here's the deal. Yeah. Here's the deal. Here's what people need to understand is, I mean, look, I'm even holding another book right now. And I'm sorry, Tom, I'm
cheating on me.
It's the Burr method. But, because I think, to learn, you need to be a reader, and you need to sniff out what smells right and what doesn't smell right. You have to learn, but you also have to learn by doing. But the only way you can do real estate with confidence is by having that knowledge. And everything I did in that deal came from your book.
Awesome. Yeah, thanks.
Every bit of it. And so when this thing goes through, we'll share a bottle of wine, and hey, this is good stuff.
Awesome. Yeah, looking forward to it. So, by the way, Chris actually is the first person ever to identify me out in public, which is funny. Yeah, he at Home Depot. Yeah, Kurt, we were both soaking wet in the rain because I was working outside. He was too, and then all of a sudden it's like, hey. So that was actually several years ago.
I had a quick question for Chris. So, Chris, what's the update on that land? We did a video where you had the land deal that you think about selling. Did it sell or no?
Oh, the land. Yeah, the land.
Yeah, and so, and again, I said that in that video at the very end. I said, nothing's come to fruition. We'll see what happens. And unfortunately, it was one of those weird things where hindsight's 2020. I should have just said yes immediately to the offer, but at the same rate, maybe I shouldn't have, because I was just trying to get a little bit more out of the deal because they were so quick to make their offer. I still have that piece of land. Somebody's looking at it this weekend. But that's the other thing is, I'm in the baby stages right here. Like I've got one little lot. I've got two little lots. I've got, I bought a little tiny shack. I bought a little house. And so the profit from each one of these is going into the other. I'm taking a little off the top for myself and my family and going to look for the next deal, moving out a little bit. And
Chris quit his job, by the way. He's got himself in a position where he's even able to quit his job and dedicate himself full time to doing what he's making the most money with. And it's already paid off, Chris. You've already made a year's wages, basically, or nearly, right?
Yeah. And that's where I would say too, for anybody that is anything like me, like I can do a lot of this stuff. I can do plumbing, I can do electricity, I can work concrete, I can do all of that. But again, I'm a family guy. I got to help out with the kids.
Yeah.
And so here's the deal. Like maybe think about focusing on vacant land, vacant lots. If you can find those and work those angles, like there's not much you can do to those. So you're not working on them. You're trying to buy them at the right price and sell them at the right price.
Right. And see, like Chris, and this is one of the things, it's one of those, it's a good thing, trap, and it's good. It's kind of like you're growing out of it. But like say, he's looking at some of this stuff that he can do that he'd have to pay somebody $40-$50 an hour to do. It could be carpentry, electric, and that sort of thing. But he's got to self-examine and go, wait, I'm a guy that makes $40,000 on one transaction. Like that.
That's awesome.
And so when you start thinking in those terms, you realize you can't afford to do that work that you can do. You can't afford to save $30 on something when you know how to make tens of thousands doing something else. And you just got to realize the paydays are further apart, but they're much, much bigger. So
yeah.
That's
so
awesome.
Again, everything's done when it's done and signed and closed.
And the money transfers.
So I'll give you guys that update. I'm really trying to
I know.
not get too excited.
It's not jinxy, yeah. Yeah, that's great.
Awesome.
Well, thanks for sharing, Chris. Hey, Garrett, you got something to say, Garrett? And we got to get to Robert too. Robert was the first one inside here, but I told Garrett I hit him up.
No, you got me to say.
Hey, Tom.
Hey.
Yeah, just really appreciate all the commercial stuff that you've been, kind of going over. I've been sending you some stuff that I've been kind of looking at, and I've just, commercial's still new to me. So it's good to I didn't have a specific question, but it's good to kind of hear your thoughts about how you walk through when you first see a deal, price per square foot, the 1% rule, parking. I'd never thought about those, thought about things in those terms, whether or not it's on the going to work or the coming home. So I'm just trying to get a better grasp of all those things. So.
And it's neat because we got several people just like you in the class now, and man, everybody's hitting on, you know what I mean? Everybody's just getting brighter, smarter.
Yeah.
And once in a while I'll see something like, hey, that looks pretty interesting. Where is that?
Yeah, the commercial deals, the strip centers, I've never thought about that before, but now that I'm starting to look at them, they do seem a lot more attractive than most other forms of.
Right. And even like that one you showed me today.
Multifamily, mobile home parks that you're hearing people talk about. Mm-hmm. All that stuff is just high expenses and a lot of work. And when you talk about a triple net lease with established business, it just sounds right.
And one toilet and like a blade of grass or a planter instead of a yard.
Right.
Yeah. No, there's a lot of advantages. A lot of people don't realize, when you have commercial and industrial property, they're very much the same. Mm-hmm. There's like one toilet per 1,000 square feet. Mm-hmm. It's not very much. And it's like a nothing, you know what I mean? There's no shower.
Yeah.
The carpet, none of that stuff matters to you because that's the tenant pays for those improvements. Mm-hmm. It's whatever they're selling. It's going to be their showroom, they're for carpet salesman or whatever. Anybody, they're going to pay for the carpeting. They're going to pay for all the interior improvements. We call it a white box. You deliver them a white shell, and then they just do whatever they want in there. And that's why I love buying that stuff, vacant or not. I know I'll get it rented. And Ken Buccio, he made $500,000 or more than $500,000 on this last one he bought, and he had some of the same apprehensions that everybody else. But as soon as he showed me that, I'm like, oh, damn it! I wish I had 10 of those to buy. And it was beautiful, a little 4,000 square foot place. It was 3/4 empty, and he filled it just like that. And he bought it for $5 1/4. And oh man.
Well, and
was that Ken's first commercial deal when he bought?
I think it was his first. Yes, I think it was his first commercial. But he had. Oh man, I got a tenant freaking out. Text keeps popping up. I got to figure out. I'm not going to try to get rid of it now. Anyways, I had to tell her that her rent went up $1,000 because of taxes. Yeah. Anyways,
well, and I have a question.
But sorry, go ahead, Garrett. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to cut off.
Yeah, I was just asking about Ken's deal. I don't know if I heard the story on that one, if that was his first deal, and how did he find it?
On Ken, well, what Ken did was he actually just wandered along and found this property on the corner. In fact, Ken, if you're out there, pop in, man. Let's look at that thing again. I can't remember the address. But it was in California, and he it was just a little corner property, plywood bordering up three-quarters of it, and it had a little massage parlor in the far left, and it was beautiful. It was beautiful. I mean, to me, not everybody was beautiful. It was beautiful to me. And I was explaining, I said, no, man, this is beautiful. You got a fantastic. But he was afraid. He goes, but there's nobody there. And if there's nobody there, it means maybe people don't like it. Or, that's the concerns that go through your head is, well, why are people leaving? Why are they not making it, or whatever the deal is? Or, poor management. Most people don't consider that the management could be terrible and are just, just uninterested because they're comfortable, and that happens a lot. And that's what it was in this case. So he got it and got fantastic terms we negotiated that included, with a little bit of an early payoff, owner finance, but also with a little bit of an early payoff, it went from awesome to even better. Saved another $75,000, and he filled it right up. And now that thing, I think he paid basically he's paying 5.25, and this thing produces a net income of over $72,000 a year.
Yeah,
which is about $1.2 million value at 6%, at a 6% cap rate. And we can go revisit that one again in the class Saturday if you guys want, because it's a really cool one, really cool. And that one you just showed me, Garrett, wasn't bad. Garrett showed me a property he's looking at that had like a barber shop in the bottom of it, and had two apartments in the back. All I could see was the front of it. And I could see straight in parking. And of course, the first thing I asked him was, okay, good, got that here, is where's the parking for those apartments? And he said it's in the back. And I said, okay, good, because I couldn't see the parking that was for them, and I was glad. But to me, that has some potential, so.
Well, and I was going to ask a second ago. I'm going to ask Garrett, and then I'll also ask you. Because, Garrett, it's been cool to kind of see your progression through the mentorship, kind of where you're starting and where you're kind of going in your trajectory.
Yeah.
So when, and I know he's thinking about getting into commercial, and there's some hesitancy there, but does it take as much work to get a deal on a commercial as it does residential? Is it you know what I mean?
There's less players in the game. There's less of that property, but there's less people in that game. So it doesn't really matter. But there's some things you got to know for sure. And Garrett's digging in and learning it as we go along. And Garrett, by the way, was the first person to send me a check after my book came out. He sent me a copy of a check. He made $25,000 on a deal, and then he joined the mentorship. And it's been good. I think you're doing the right thing, because he's got it. He's looking carefully. And we know you're going to make a good decision. When you do make your decision, it's going to be like he knows that there's money here, and that's what I tell everybody. People think, oh, you got balls of steel going out there buying. No, it would take balls to not buy real estate and save money. That would be the worst thing in the world, because that is going broke. That would be scary. Buying something that I tell people, if you got a $50,000 Mercedes-Benz and you can buy it for $20,000, I mean, brand new, let's say not brand new anymore, but if you can buy a car that's worth $50,000, that it's worth 50, and you can buy it for 20, of course you're going to buy it. Yeah, there's nothing scary about it.
About two of them.
You could start it up and leave it running until it's sold. Yeah. You know what I mean? If you're worried about it not working. But anyways, cool. You got anything else to share, Garrett, or say, or?
Oh, no, that's it, Tom. I appreciate it.
Same here. Thank you. Hey, Robert Vergara, how about you? Anything, or are you just listening?
Oh, I'm just listening. I'm following what you're saying in your mentorship and in your book, building up my binder. I've sent out a few letters, and then next week I'm going to be sending out the ones that are a little closer to home. And then after that and I bird dog on the weekends, because that's, I can't reach there. So
awesome.
I'm very grateful for this. Listening to you motivates me, and that's what keeps my excuse my language, lazy ass from looking out on the window.
Well, you sound pretty sleepy right now. So.
I don't want to be loud. I live in an apartment with other people. I don't want to be rude.
Well, good for you. All right, man. Well, thanks, Robert, for popping in.
And,
appreciate it.
Kai had asked in the chat about an update, and you can ask Kai because you're in here, update on your property with the trees and stuff.
Which one? I can't remember.
Just this last purchase I think you made.
Oh
Last
God,
one. With
yeah,
all the
yeah.
tree work. The
Oh
arborist
yeah,
and
yeah.
stuff like that.
Oh, that thing's beautiful. Yeah, no, you're talking about the house I bought.
Yeah, the
Yeah,
one
yeah.
that you made like a bunch of videos on.
Yeah. That thing's beautiful. I'm really excited about that one. That's because I'm actually thinking about dolling that place up enough that maybe I might move into it. I don't know. I really like it. That is almost an acre of beautifully secluded property in the heart of town, and I actually own the property next to it too. So it's like having a huge park.
So is it just sitting right now?
Yeah, just sitting there waiting for me. Yeah. No, that's a fun one. Yeah, you're going to see some neat stuff too.
Yeah,
I've been doing a
cool.
lot of video on it. I'm cleaning it up quite a bit. So it's
So you haven't done anything in the inside yet?
No,
I mean, the outside was the main thing. I was afraid if somebody drop a match, the place would burn up. 'Cause it literally looked like a nest.
Yeah.
It looked like a damn house sitting in a nest. It was so surrounded. And yeah. So by the way, if you just got here, please hit that subscribe button, hit that like button. And I've made over 1,000 videos now. Hard to believe it. And you can see all kinds of properties I bought, and people that here that you see here have even bought, and other people that aren't here right now that bought. In fact, I'm going to break away for 1 second. We'll come back and talk to you, Kai. 1 second. Take a look at these guys and the deals these people have purchased.
Stop and listen. Time is on a mission to eliminate all the snake oil and the fake gurus that fake y'all. He'll show you how to build an empire, starting with nothing but a desire. All you really need is a good mentor, not a used car bullshit. With time, you'll learn to crush it. Investing like Warren Buffett. With real estate, you cannot procrastinate. Everyone who hesitates is left at the starting gate. Hey, yo, so don't delay and join today. The mentorship and flip anything. USA, go.
All right, we're back. And so, Kai, what was the last deal? You were just closing something recently, weren't you?
Yeah, I got a few things. Kind of in limbo though, because I recently did a cash out refi where I got like 32,000 cash.
Mm-hmm.
Then I bought a duplex seller finance.
Oh, nice.
Not with that money, just other saved money. So I got that money sitting in my bank account. I've got my real estate informant kind of working on buying some houses on a street that I currently have one house, and I would like to buy up the rest, especially because the housing authority, whenever they come by and inspect, they're wondering what's going on because there's a few other vacant houses on the street.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm trying to get that going. And I'm gonna use some of that cash out refi money to buy that, or I could use it to fix up that duplex and get that really cash flowing like it needs to be. So I'm kind of in limbo on whether I want to wait to see if anything like that comes through or just go ahead and get the duplex cash flowing.
Yeah, I'm actually glad you mentioned the financing part of it. You know, I always recommend getting an
RLOC.
An RLOC, yeah, a revolving line of credit, so you can throw the money back, but you can always pull it back in and out, so you don't get penalized or charged interest while you're not using it. But, and I don't know what you did, Kai, but I'm sure you did what you had to do. But one of the things I was going to say is, since you brought up financing, is, normally I've been a variable rate guy, and it's treated me really, really well over the many years that I've been doing that. But with what I've seen here lately, I've actually made the calls to the bank and said, hey, let's just turn some of this into, because some of this has been done. I bought a lot of properties here, almost $10 million worth of property just in the last year. And and so basically I have loans that have happened within a year, and that means they have current appraisal, current tax, of a recent insurance, title insurance policy. So what that means to me, and it might mean this to a lot of you folks that bought something, it means you have the ability to go back to your bank and say, hey, let's convert this to a fixed rate if you opted for a variable, because they don't need to do anything. In other words, except talk to the committee and change it and decide on a fixed rate. And so that's what I've done. I'm converting some fixed rates of, 3 3/4 to 4 fixed. And it's worth it to me because, I'm concerned that the way they're going to try to curb the inflation is raise the rates. It's kind of the only thing you can do. And that's why I say we're talking about the trap. So I'm not, the properties that I intend to flip are mostly just houses. Everything else, all the commercial industrial stuff that I bought is long term. I'm hanging on to it, and it cash flows, and I'm not worried about it. But I'd be tempted if somebody offered me $400 a foot for that stuff that I paid $100 and $200 a foot for. I mean, I might consider it. But the fact is, here's why I don't sell it, and the reason I don't put it up for sale right now is I have to replace it with something. What am I going to buy with it? I'm going to buy this $10 million property that's worth $4 million. You know what I mean? That's the kind of options that are out there. So
I was going to ask you, with the when you lock in the rate, how long are you locking it in for? Is it?
Typically they're going to go, and in fact, my banker says, "Yeah, Tom, that all sounds good," and I made it clear. I says, "You want to make more loans?" He goes, "Yeah, Tom. There's a lot of people we don't want to make more loans with right now, but we definitely want to make more loans with you," and so especially if you don't borrow more, if you're borrowing less than 70% of value, they're super happy. And I'm like at 40% of value. I said, look, I just want 40% of value out of these assets. So I have a lot of equity, and they like that. I like it just because I don't, I'm not worried. I used to leverage a lot more when I was younger, but I'm not, just don't need to. But the problem I would have right now, if I sold a property and I had, $4 or $5 million or $6 million that I need to roll into something else, I just don't know where there's anything bigger. Right now, I haven't seen anything that turns me on that makes me want to buy. Because everybody, I got a feeling I'm going to be able to buy this shit a lot cheaper in 2 years, to be quite honest.
Well, and that's what I was going to ask you.
On commercial, by the way.
That's what I was going to ask you. Is it, in your situation, like you said, you have no reason to sell because it's making more money.
I don't have anything to buy. That's why. If I had something to buy, I'd have a reason to sell, and I don't have anything to buy.
So it feels like the importance of being patient, because some people can feel like, oh, I just got to get something. I don't know if they get to your level and they're buying commercial, if they still feel that, or if those kind of jitters go away. But, I know sometimes people get like hot in the pants when they have money and they're trying to be an investor. But like you said, you might end up overpaying. If you don't know what
I see it all the time. Listen, you can see with Bitcoin, this is a perfect example. All these Bitcoin investors, all of a sudden there's all these Gen X and millennial Bitcoin investors. Why is that? Because they got a bunch of stimulus money for free. And it's just kind of like inheritance. Inheritance is free money. People take, I got inheritance, I'm going to make a bunch of money in the stock market. And then they meet the wrong person or take the wrong lead, and they throw it in the stock market, and they lose their ass. And they never earned it anyways, and it happens in real estate. They piss it away. They sell it too cheap. It happens all the time. But anyways, did I get off track here, or did I?
No, you answered, because the trap, and to kind of recap, or for people that just joined, the trap in real estate in 2022.
The trap I was describing,
trap that Tom is describing is with the feds potentially going to increase the interest rate, which they're going to do. They pretty much said today. The cost of money is going to get more expensive, which will force a lot of the valuations to go down. And what that means as an investor is that now more of your money is going to the bank. So
money's more expensive.
So
the cap isn't as good. The cap rate isn't going to be as good.
Money's more expensive, and
I should say the cap rate's the same.
Yeah, cap rate.
The money is the borrowed money is what's more expensive.
Exactly.
Yeah, that's what's going to hurt.
So avoid that trap, and just be aware of the trap.
Yep. How about Joseph? I think he's been waiting a little longer. Then we'll jump over to you, to Herbert, if you want. Joseph Harris III.
I think we got almost two in here. I think that's the other person.
Which, by the way, those of you out there watching live, you can jump in the Zoom. The link's below, and you can jump into the Zoom. Just click on the link and hop in here, and we're happy to have you.
Garrett has another question.
Oh, sure, Garrett, go ahead. And then Herbert.
So, Tom, with the environment that you're talking about, I know your advice is, has always stayed true to buy under market, but do you have any other suggestions as far as what to do, what to look for? Should we sit tight? Should we just, what margin would you try to buy it to try to anticipate, things going down? Like, what are you thinking?
I have some great stuff I'm going to share with you in class Saturday, but on average here, for open everybody in YouTube, I would just say, once in a while you can, like, if you're going to buy a home for yourself, you're going to get a great interest rate now. You're going to get a really good low interest rate. And, you want to buy the best thing you can. I don't like buying full retail ever. And, it may be somewhat unavoidable for some of you that aren't going to keep your standards high anyways. But, just get the best rate you can, get the best deal you can. If you plan on living there for quite a while, that'll probably make up for it a little bit. If you do, because you can buy stuff and it'll go down below. It'll be worth less than you paid for it sometimes. But if you got a really low interest rate and you got to live there for the next 15 years for your kids anyways, then that's fine. I mean, I don't recommend it, but I mean, it's better than nothing.
Well, and I'm going to piggyback on your question there, Garrett. So with the interest rates going up, and say, like you said, with your personal home, you get it. With you seeing rates go up and down, you can always refinance at a lower rate,
But not always.
Oh, really?
Hell no. Are you kidding? Yeah, the interest rates are going up right now. You're not going to have a low rate and then get as good or better. You know what I mean? I'm not going to be able to.
It'll take some time.
Listen, I'm opting to go from my variable rate that's 3.25, 3.5, one of them, to jump into 3 3/4 and 4 fixed, because it's like my leapfrogging, right? I'm leapfrogging to a little bit higher interest than I want to pay, but I know that the interest is going to surpass what I'm paying. So it's kind of leapfrogging with the interest. Leapfrogging's a chapter in my book, by the way, and it's relative to that. And I'll just say it's relative to that. And so that's what I'm thinking about on that. But to your question, again, Garrett, about other things you might do, look, terms are everything. If you can finance, great terms. If you can finance, and listen, I make a lot of money sometimes when I go to buy a property. If I get it owner financed, and I get all these terms, these great terms in place. That's a great hedge against inflation and everything else, because no matter what the interest rates do, it doesn't matter. Mine is set and fixed, and guess what? It's assumable.
Yeah.
Unless it's otherwise written. I can sell somebody a property, and I can pass that same great interest rate on to them.
Yeah.
And that's a beautiful thing and a very powerful, profitable thing. So, all right, let's jump to Herbert. Herbert, you got something? And then should I read some questions real quick?
Oh, yeah.
I wanted to ask something that you guys, I guess, it's been picking around. If interest rates are going to trickle up, I mean, what are we talking about? 0.25% every maybe 3 months, every quarter?
I mean, it's made jumps like that before. It's gone down faster than that. When 2009, things went down 3% in a matter of 6 months. And I go ahead.
But in our current situation, you have inflation on one side, but if you increase rates too fast, then wouldn't that stall the economy and be worse also?
That's the rub right there. I mean, hey, listen, things are killing the economy anyway. If everything's expensive, that hurts the economy.
Yeah.
I mean, at all right, and that's happening with low interest rates. You follow me? And so, but everything's becoming unaffordable for where people to live and to rent and everything else. Listen, I don't even care that my portfolio is blowing up in value, because I don't really want to sell most of it. It's great for on the houses that I'm flipping. That's fantastic. But everything else, all I'm doing is everything that, just whatever. Say a little center I bought for, what I paid $2 million for it. Let's just say it's worth $6 million now. Well, the value goes up, the taxes go up. I pass the taxes on to my tenants. They're paying more rent in the form of, I'm getting the same rent, but they're paying more in rent because they're paying the taxes. You follow me? I mean, I can bump them up a little bit, but in all honesty, the taxes alone are just taking the wind out of their sails, and you know what I mean? So I don't know if I answered your question or not, Herbert, but
I'm kind of going to get there. Now, we still have an issue with supply and demand. We still have an issue that we cannot get all the suppliers to finish our properties. So I'm assuming that prices, even though interest may trickle a little bit on the higher side, I'm assuming that prices will still go up because there's not enough inventory.
Yeah. So Herbert just bought a house. He's also in the class, by the way, he's in the mentorship, and he just nailed a great deal. And he's figuring about a $50,000 remodel, I think. And I was saying, you know what? Instead of thinking of new, think of paint and plaster and spackle, and you know what I mean? Because you can turn it around quicker. Just get it, patch it up, make it look super clean. Don't replace the cabinets. Just patch and paint them. Just make everything look pretty as you can. And I think you'd be better off personally, and you'd be able to turn it quicker too, you know. And the interest rates are probably going to be lower now too, which is also in your favor for selling. So, but these are the kind of things you got to face, you know. When you start fixing up stuff, it takes time.
Yeah.
And so months can go by on a remodel like what you have at hand. And it can, you know, I mean, I think you're going to do fine on your deal, but I mean, like you said, you sound concerned about availability of materials.
Well,
and
yes,
things.
I mean, the way you're mentioning, you know, it's taken about, I just spoke to the contractor yesterday. He's telling me it may take between a month and a half to 3 months just to get windows.
Oh.
So you know, I'm talking about 3 months of making payments on the loan.
Yeah, you know what? Let's have a talk. It doesn't take that long. It does not take that long. I don't know where. I mean, I've been buying windows regularly. I had to wait a couple of weeks for some recently, but it doesn't take that long. So.
Okay. All right.
Yeah, let's talk.
We got some questions here, but I know if anybody in the Zoom has anything they want to say before we get over to the YouTube questions.
Let's rip through the YouTube questions real quick, and then you guys, you can raise your hands out in the Zoom world, and we'll get to you. Go ahead and rip through these.
Matt asked, is industrial preferable over retail?
Same, although there's probably a little better. I mean, listen, it's up for debate, but that's what I buy primarily for long-term hold is both. So I like them both. If the numbers make sense, I'll take either one. You know, here's the thing to be concerned in this country is, you know, we have a growing population. We have, 2 million people came across the border here in the last 6 months since Biden's been in. So you got 2 million people come over the border, and they're not high education. They're pretty much factory workers. If you're going to put anybody to work, you know what I mean? They're not going to be writing software, that sort of thing. So, and the problem is that all of our jobs are going to China anyways that are industrial. There's 400 shops, 400 industrial buildings and shops closing down every year. 400 or 4,000. It's a ridiculously high amount. And I've gone through it. I feel like I'm picking through people's bones when I'm buying all these machines. The guys built these huge companies, and I'm buying their stuff for, you know, pennies on the dollar. And because I'm thinking, gee, this looks kind of like a building that I used to own or a, you know, business I used to own. And well, they're not even upset. They're just saying, no, we're selling this crap because we can get the stuff made over in Taiwan cheaper. And that's what they're doing. But the problem is those jobs are going away. Yeah. And so the jobs that are leaving our country are exactly the kind of jobs we need in this country. You know what I mean? And, you know, we got the best software engineers in the world, but, you know, not everybody's a software engineer. Yeah. And the other alternatives is, you know, wait tables and cut hair and, you know, service industry to a degree. And, you know, and maybe building homes and that sort of thing, but, you know, you need a working class. I don't know. We're losing our middle class. We're losing our middle class jobs, and that's scary. So that makes me consider that I maybe don't feel as good about industrial property as much. You know what I mean? Because that's where they work. That's where the stuff is done. Yeah. Now, you still need warehouses. You still need retail for people. You know, people to go get their haircuts and all that sort of thing. All the things that you see in a strip center, and I have a lot of that stuff, and that stuff I feel really good about. And that's what I'm looking for mostly. You know, but I saw, you know, there's a business proposed. They wanted me to use. They said, "Hey, we like this, and come see this." And I went and looked at it. They want to put this particular business on. Well, they want to put it on my property, and I said, "Look, I'll sell you the property, but I'm not going to take that business and put it on my property and have both. No thanks." And it was tea. Like, yeah, iced tea. Oh wow. Yeah, if you can imagine, like a big old, you know, place that just has nothing but tea. Yeah. You know, pineapple. It's funny. I was laughing because it's like, you know, we got, strawberry tea and lemon popsicle tea and popcorn tea. But it reminded me of Bubba Gump. And, shrimp this, shrimp that, tea this, tea that. And they're going all through all the different. And I'm like, but I went in and I looked at their store, and it was terrible because if you know the little simple stores, the simple beverage dispensers that you see they're not carbonated. And you just see it just constantly mixing, you know, like lemonade, just sit there. So that's what it was. It's all these things mixing, and you go over and get tea. Now, I know tea is popular in Texas, but, you know, a store full of tea, you can run in and grab a bucket of tea. I don't buy it. So, anyways, What else we got?
So also, you're talking about the stock market crash. So Robert said, "I love stock market crashes. Buy low and sell high." Um, Robert Radman says, "Tom, I'm looking at an 11-unit rental center that is occupied by one single tenant. Would that scare you away? 6.7 cap. Just signed a new 3-year lease with 3% escalators. Your thoughts?"
Yeah. I mean, if you feel comfortable with a 6.7 cap, that's not bad. And if you can lock in, if you could lock in, 3.75 rate or say a 4 cap, fixed, you're going to make 2.7 on the borrowed money. But it boils down to the credit worthiness of the tenant. Is the tenant? How good do you feel about the tenant? Like I was looking at buying a Walgreens not long ago, but they had been marked down. Their credit score,
rating.
I can't remember what they call it. Yeah, their ranking dropped a little bit. And also, I'd sold a building to a guy that does. He bought. There's 4 of us. There's about 100,000 square foot of building in this area. And my property, I think, was 13,000 square foot. Another guy had 1,000 square foot. Another guy had 20,000. Well, he bought 33,000, and then he bought my property. So he had about 50,000 when he bought. Everything was coming from mail to home pharmaceuticals.
Mm-hmm.
So it's a pharmaceutical distributor, and he's blowing up. Well, if he's blowing up, Walgreens is going down because you're taking that from the drugstores.
Yeah.
So I wasn't as keen to buy a Walgreens as I was prior to that. Now they've got a strong credit rating, and by the way, when you go in, if you could look around in LoopNet and these different, outlets for retail and industrial properties, you'll see what they call, they're renting them, and they're saying you can get this. They'll call it a dark. That's the terminology, dark, D-A-R-K. A dark property that's leased means it's like a store that has a great creditor, but their store is closed.
Mm-hmm.
So for whatever reason, it's more profitable for them, or less loss for them, to just pay the lease and let the place sit empty. And I've seen a Taco Cabana like that. I don't want to name names, but I'm pretty sure I saw a Taco Cabana like that. And, it could be just that particular area where that one is in that city. But I saw other companies as well that you could buy it and get paid, but the store is empty. I don't like that.
Yeah.
It makes me very uncomfortable.
Yeah.
So that's to my point, Robert, is what I was just going to say is take a look at the tenant. If they just signed a 3-year lease, they must feel good about the economy. I had another one I'm looking at right now, a big industrial property. And my concern was they'd been re-signing for 5 years every time. Well, this last lease, they signed for 3 years. I'm like, well, why didn't they take 5? Mm-hmm. That's been historically, they go 5, 5, 5. Mm-hmm. Why did they only renew for 3? Are they going to leave in 3? Mm-hmm. And the agent didn't have a good answer, so.
And Josh had asked a question, but it looks like he retracted it. And Paul says he was saying non-standard size windows are taking 2 to 3 months. I order windows every month.
Yeah, I believe that. Yeah, that I believe. But yeah, no, 100%. I believe that, Paul. But you can fudge sometimes. But I've been ripping out windows too pretty regularly, and I had a handful, and they were probably the customs that I would order, but most windows I've been able to just yank and replace, out of Lowe's and out of Home Depot, but we have a number of companies too that make that aren't too far away, but I just anyways, I don't want to get stuck, or maybe. And his house is relatively small, the house that Herbert has.
Okay.
You could measure those windows up yourself, Herbert, and just kind of go to Home Depot and Lowe's and just see, because they have all the standard sizes, and you can kind of see what they have that would fit in your window frame.
There you go. And it looks like Garrett has his hand up.
Sure, go ahead, Garrett.
Yeah, Tom, I hear you mention a lot about the what you're making on the borrowed money and the spread between the interest rate and the cap rate.
Yes.
Can you talk a little bit more about that? Because I was reading something the other day, and a guy was saying that if you can get a 3-point spread between the interest rate and the cap rate, then you essentially have a pretty good deal. Would you agree with that?
Yeah.
Because I think he was saying a 3% spread would come out to, like, I can't remember if he said 20% or 25% cash on cash.
Well, I mean, listen, I try to shoot for better than that. But to give you an example, I bought a building with a 9 cap, and you know which one I'm talking about. It's an industrial building, a 9 or 9.25, something like that. But so on that one, I'm making $144,000 a year on a $1.6 million purchase. Mm-hmm. So you can do the math.
Yeah,
on
I'm
that.
trying to do the math.
Should be about 9.
Right.
Should be about 9 or 9.125 or something like that. Well, I can sell that property at probably a 6 cap right now, and it would look better than everything else, right? You just saw the stuff I showed you, a 5 cap. They have 4.5 caps. So if I sell that at a 6 cap, that brings it up to being worth about $2.4 million. So I could probably turn it right now for $2.4 million and say 6 cap, $2.4 million, and that's what it would be, and that's a great return and to what you said, it doesn't quite fit your friends.
65.
It doesn't quite fit what your friends' criteria is, Garrett, but that's better than some people require. You follow me? Because right now, just look at what I just showed you a little while ago. They were bragging about a 5.5 cap, and you're not going to borrow money for any cheaper than 3.5. And so that one, you've only got 2 points, and you get a variable rate, and you'll evaporate that 2%. You know, it can happen. People, just because people in the last, look at, nobody's seen this kind of inflation for, many years, but you can already look at the fact that in 2009, roughly, we had the bank crisis. The rates went from 5.5 to 2.5, 3%. That's a huge drop in 6 months, and it came back up. It did come back up.
How quickly?
I don't want to say, but it did come back. It's a few years. Say. Okay, and it came back up. So things can change. Things can move 3 points. It's a lot. It's a lot, and it's devastating if it sneaks up on you.
What would you consider like a minimum, as far as that spread? What would you consider like a minimum benchmark to kind of shoot for?
I think what your guys,
or is that one of your?
I think what your guy said is minimum.
3%.
Yeah, I would want at least that. Yeah, if you can get, in other words, let's say you'd have to get a property that has a 7% return right now. And listen, when I say 7% return, I mean 7% return on a 90% occupancy or maybe an 85% occupancy. In other words, I don't base it on 100% occupancy. You can't. Nothing stays that. Nothing unless it's a Walgreens or somebody that takes the whole store. But if they don't take the whole store, then I'd be nervous with a multi-tenant building. It's not going to be that much fun.
Well, thinking about it like that makes it easier to evaluate commercial deals in my head.
Oh yeah,
because I can say, oh well, I'm looking for that spread as a minimum, so I could, it's at least where I could start.
Yeah, the stuff that'll make you feel uncomfortable is getting a big building that's empty. And even Ken had a little bit of that control, but I said, no, don't worry about it, Ken. I said, look, you're buying a 4,000 square foot building and only 750 square feet of it was taken, I think. I go, you've got some, you could rent 3,200 square feet to one person, or you can do 2 1,600s, or you can do, whatever, four 800 square foot spaces. And so you've got some, you know what I mean? One time, somebody asked me the other day, do you get nervous about, having one tenant for the whole building?
Yeah.
Well, I got a beautiful, it was an old school, and it had 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, it had about 9 classrooms, a cafeteria. Each one could be its own office. And I thought, hey, old school office building. And that's what I was going to do, and it was kind of a, I was going to theme it like the school, the principal's office and this and that thing. And that's how it was. And some guy came along, first guy came along and says, I want the whole thing. And he rented the whole, so one whole thing, whole building, one tenant. And he lasted for 3 or 4 years. And then he moved out, and I filled it with a bunch of individuals, and it's been more profitable than ever.
So, Garrett, to recap what you were just saying, you were saying with that 3% difference, that's between, he said, the interest rate money from what you're getting from the bank and the cap rate from your valuations of the property.
He's saying that, a property a property that would bring in 6%. You pay cash for it. After all expenses, it brings in 6%. So on $1 million, it brings in $60,000. If he can borrow that money at 3%,
and that's a great deal.
It makes yeah. I mean, it's a minimum.
Yeah.
It's a minimal deal.
That's cool.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah. But I'd like to have more. And Garrett, what I also look for, if you look at the properties I buy, I would buy something like that. If I bought something that only had a 3% spread, like you're describing, it would probably have leases that are coming up for renewal that I'm going to raise. It might have extra land besides the building where I can add more building if I want to, and or utilize the extra land in another way. Could be a food park. You know what I mean? Look for things where you can create more value. You know what I mean? You know, a lot of people, go ahead.
Well, this is kind of a different question, so I do. If you want to go ahead and finish, I guess it's on another track.
Okay, I'll jump to somebody else here. Maybe that's been waiting. Go ahead, Darius. You pick or whoever we got.
I think
Joseph. No, Joseph never came.
Because we asked Joseph Kai.
Oh,
I don't
Almas.
know who iPhone
Almas
is.
is
Yeah,
in
Almas.
Almost, you got anything you want to ask?
And I don't know who iPhone is.
Oh, iPhone.
Nah, I'm good, Tom.
All right.
Just listen.
Got you. Thanks, Almost. How about iPhone? We don't know who that is. in the Zoom. You're shown as iPhone. Here, just can you bug him? Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, here you
Oh,
go.
there it goes.
I'm just listening.
Okay. All righty. All right. Well.
Garrett said he had one more question.
Oh yeah. Go ahead, Garrett. Back to you.
Yeah. How do you handle tenant improvements in retail spaces? Like,
Hey,
I know you
exactly like it says. I let the tenant pay for the improvement. Tenant improvements. Okay. Now, listen. A lot of people. This is one of the reasons I like established companies, because they generally aren't going to ask if, or they are actually in more of a position to say, hey, we want you to do this, this, and this. But, and listen, this is what tortured banks when a lot of the banks were going down in the 80s, is they would spend $100,000 on tenant improvements for somebody that's moving in going to pay $5,000 a month, when they got the properties back. And this is people, the banks don't manage properties well, and they found that out. And I found it out too, to my advantage. But so the way I handle tenant improvements is, they'll say, "Will you do anything?" And I'll say, "Well, I don't mind doing some things that I think the property already needs. That'll improve the property. It could be windows, it could be a new front door, it could be something like a new air conditioner maybe. But as far as like specific colors, special carpeting, that's on them." Now if we're gonna be here for all these years, then I'll say, okay, I'll tell you what I'll do. You pay for it. You put the $30,000 up. Let's say they want to spend $30,000. They're trying to get it from you. Say, I tell you what, you spend $30,000 on the improvements, and I'll pay for half of it. But I'm not going to pay half cash. What I'll do is I'll take $1,000 a month off your rent for the next 15 months. And because if they don't feel confident enough that they're going to be in business for 15 months, they might not take that deal. But I'll take that deal. And most of them do feel that confident, because they wouldn't even be going into the venture if they didn't feel that confident. But you just got to be really careful with your money, and because it's gambling. You're gambling in their business. You don't want to be an investor in their business. You don't mind taking rent and giving them a decent deal. But this business of putting out $10,000 for a property that maybe they're going to give you $5,000 a month, it doesn't make any sense.
Yeah.
And then guess here's the worst part, Garrett. If you do something like that, let's just say you take I'm in an open room right now. It's about 30 by 40. Let's just say I chop this up into, a bunch of little offices. Okay, for this guy that's, for sure thing. And so I spend 30, 40 grand chopping this up into a bunch of little, spaces. Could be for a chiropractor, who knows, something like that. Well, I get it done, and then he goes out of business. Okay.
He didn't chop up all these rooms.
And now I'm out all that money. And then the next great tenant that comes in says, I love it. Just tear out all these walls. That can happen, because I've tell you the mistake I have made is I've gone in when I was earlier in business, or not as experienced as I am today. So I came in and I kind of foresaw what I thought, I thought, I'm going to have a doctor in here. I'm going to have a car. I'm going to have somebody in here. And so I go ahead and take the initiative to bang in the walls and put in all the offices. And then the person comes in and they go, it's great, but I need you to tear out these walls. So it's all my fault. You know what I mean? Where I should just say, it's a blank canvas, a white box. That's what it should be. Walls painted white, bright, let them see everything. You know, I'll walk through. If a tenant wants to do something like that, I meet him with a tape measure. Maybe I have another guy and a chalk line. And they'll say, what can we do? I said, what do you want? What do you need? And they'll say, we need an entry. Okay, how big? And I mark it. And most of them don't have any sense of dimensions anyways. And I'll walk over and they'll say, and I can walk with pretty good accuracy. I got a 3-foot stride. I can, count ceiling tiles. And so I start marking the building. You guys know when you look up and you see ceiling tiles, they're either 2 foot by 2 foot or they're 2 foot by 4 foot. So you can go in and look up and say, okay, let's make you a 10 by 10 room. And you just count 5 tiles, that's 10 by 10. Mark it on the floor where you're standing. Say, then, okay, we got a hallway, look up, 2 tiles, there's 4 feet. And you start marking the floor. And you can just walk the building, and I can draw a floor plan on the floor while the tenant's walking with me, telling me what they want. And then when we get done, I can snap lines on all my pencil markings, or I use the red crayon. It's usually really good. And they're going, oh, I can see it, and I draw a door that swings this way or that way, because you want to know how do you want it hinged, how do you want it swinging, where do you want a light here, and every time you put in all these rooms, by the way, there's going to be air conditioning vent, there's going to be lighting. You got to consider all that stuff, and it all costs money. So again, tenant improvements, they think, well, you're just going to throw in a couple walls. I said, well, yeah, we're going to throw in a couple walls, and then we're going to throw in a couple of lights, and then we're going to have a couple of light switches, and then we're going to have to reduct the place. It's not that simple. It's not that simple and cheap as it sounds. It sounds easy when you just say a couple of rooms, but there's more to it than that. And then doors, they pay about $300. Well, last time I looked, it's probably $500 now. I just paid $2,024 for a single metal door. This is an exterior metal door. Like an industrial type that I'm cutting into a concrete tilt-up wall. $2,024 for that door. I would normally pay $600 for something like that. Yeah, it's great. Yeah, things are just through the roof.
Jeez.
It's expensive, and so I'm really careful about. I don't say, yeah, I can do that for $350. Let me look. Let me find out.
Yeah,
everything's more. It looks like. Hey, I think we're at a good stopping point here. I just want to say thanks everybody for popping in. Please hit that subscribe button, hit that like button. I promise you learn a lot here. I tell everybody everything I can. I just want to see people make money and not get ripped off.
Walter, he got into the Zoom at the last minute. He has his hand up. He made sure.
Okay. Hey, Walter, go ahead. Yep. Turn on your camera, please.
Hi, Tom. I'm at work. I'm sorry I can't turn on the camera.
Okay. Go ahead.
I'm sorry. I don't want to be a negative person, but I lost a property back in 2009. And had a single family resident, one tenant, went through multiple tenants actually. And then it went 9 months unrented and I couldn't sustain it any longer, lost the property.
Sorry.
So today's been through like probably 4 recessions in my lifetime. I know we're long overdue. It seems like everything's, the mass of all bubbles, the way they call it. Do you see it sustainable like that? What would you do? Like multi-tenant, would you just get a single family again when you're talking about industrial? But listen, I guess I'm just really scared about the not being able to pay the rent, the mortgage.
Yeah, I mean, it just depends. I mean, listen, to me, there's no bad real estate. There's just bad deals. You don't make a bad deal, it doesn't matter. I bought. I don't know how many houses I bought this year. Maybe 6, maybe 4 or 5. I don't know, 5 or 6.
And
3 recently.
Yeah.
And I bought an industrial building. I bought big piece of commercial land too, and it's all different. And there's a different reason for all of it. But like Walter, I had somebody show me a property. Hey, this is a great deal. Take a look. It's only $140,000. Well, I go to it and I look, but I looked a little deeper, and what I found is that everything around this property was owned by the bank. Something had devastated this area where everybody had walked from their mortgage. So even though this looked like a good deal at $140,000, all the $300,000 homes around it were owned by banks. So I can't compete against banks that'll short sale. So why would I want it? You know what I mean? And so, and banks try to get that stuff off their books right away. So you just got to be really careful. You got to, it's too broad of a question, I guess I'd say, what you're asking without knowing a little bit more about the neighborhood that you want to buy in. And I don't. And why did you go under? Why? I mean, in 2009, I mean, things got tough for sure in different ways.
Yeah, I bought the property in '06. I ended up putting down about $40,000. The mortgage was about $1,100, and it was in Arizona. I'm in California, so it was far away. I just had bad tenants in the property management. Actually, the property management was very good. So, like I said, I couldn't rent it out, and so trying to maintain two mortgages, I just couldn't sustain it any longer.
Yeah, sorry, and that's not obviously that's a story that a lot of people have had. I wouldn't buy something that's out of state, to be quite honest.
Yeah,
I wouldn't let.
And then California, how crazy it is in California, Tom. You lived here before. It's just everything over here. Like a shack is $800,000.
Right. But yeah, believe me, they got their dumps out there too. I used to live in one, so yeah. California's got some bad areas too, and they got some cheaper areas, and they got everything. So I would just still say stay closer to home. You don't have to go that far away. Walter, do you have the book?
I do.
Okay, well, good. Well, just stick to the fundamentals in that book, and I don't see how you could go wrong, because I haven't really seen anybody go wrong that's followed the fundamentals that are in the book. And basically buy under market, buy based on what it's worth today. Don't speculate. Those are all just really good fundamentals and very safe ones. And and you got to remember, these interest rates, as low as they are right now, people don't get squat for their money in the bank. So that's an opportunity for you to maybe finagle owner financing too. So, and
Kai had mentioned, he said, single family, then ran into Section 8, never worry about getting paid again.
And that's true. I mean, the government, I bought a property that was a Section 8, just a single house. Actually, I was buying it for the land. It has a really nice piece of property. And I did really well on it. It has an overpass on it now. And I had a tenant in there that, I mean, he was strange as hell, but he was just a little strange. But he was, it was a HUD property, and he'd been there forever. Yeah, I'll tell you guys. I'll tell you a story off camera. Anyways.
So Tom, just one more thing. So you don't worry if we're on the loom of a recession or when that would hit. We went through the crazy part where tenants weren't even paying rent. I don't even know how landlords survived that, because the mortgages still had to get paid. And
but they let them not pay their mortgages too. You got to remember. And something actually, I was talking to somebody. Because here's the other thing. There's people that were already in foreclosure that when all this stuff shut down, it stopped them from being finished in foreclosure.
Oh, wow. And they can stay in the property the entire time?
Yeah. So in other words, let's say you're about to be foreclosed on, and then this pandemic hit. It stopped the clock. So then they got to sit there and collect rent if they got the rent. You follow me? But they got a break for time to go by. But so, where my thinking was always, you know what? I felt sorry for the people that saw their property values go way up, and they can't sell them because they can't get rid of the tenants, and so they're stuck. Well, another scenario, which I hadn't thought about, was people that were in foreclosure that were like, "Oh, this is great. I'm just going to stay here and not pay a little longer."
Yeah.
And then when this thing was lifted, that opened up quite a few foreclosures. So I don't actually, I don't pretend to know what the status is of everything right now. I don't know where we're at in the foreclosures. It looks like it's on average, it's about the same, maybe a little bit under, but but it doesn't mean it's not going to change. But the best thing to do, Walter, is, everybody's finances are different, and I've had. I can really hustle and make money in construction, even in tough times. I've done remodel and I've done all kinds of stuff and been very aggressive in getting work. And so I've had the ability to make money during tough times, earning money. And so I've always had that. Even while I was as an investor, I knew I could hustle and make money. And some people have that. Some people don't. Some people can't even change a tire on a car.
But I got the hustle, Tom. I got the hustle.
Yeah.
Darius calls it, Tom.
Darius
Thank you.
Yeah, Darius. Darius
All right,
calls
wait,
me.
let me add my part first before you add yours. So
Okay, you go ahead.
So Tom talks about bird dogging and the barbell, where you look around your house, you look around your work, right? Well, I left my house and I was around my work, so I'm looking around my work. And I'm driving around, and I'm getting good. You know, my numbers are getting good. I'm getting low in values and stuff like that. And I'm driving down the street, and I see a dumpster, and I'm like, oh, let me get to that dumpster. That could be a buyer. That could be something. I'm driving down, and I hear my tire go like, ka-dunk, 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 ka-dunk. And I was like, ooh, that don't sound good, right? So I get out the car. Tire has like a sad face, right? And I called Tom, and I'm like, I said, hey, Tom, I just want to let you know I'm about 3 minutes away. He goes, oh, okay. I said, I got a flat tire. He goes, oh, okay. I go, I don't know how to change a tire, Tom. You don't know how to change a tire. Yeah. I said, no, my stepdad tried to teach me, but, being a young teenager, I just never learned. And he goes, all right, give me 10 minutes. Send me your location. Yeah. And, so I had to wait for a real man to show up. And he goes, save me. So with a daughter on the way, being newly married, I was like, I need to learn how to change a tire. So
yeah. Well, it's funny too, because I told him, I said, I'll probably just fix it right on the, And by the way, in fact, maybe we'll go to it right now since we have a minute. I fix my tires on the car. I do it all the time. I got a plug kit, and the other day I had just a slight, it wasn't even a nail or a screw that I could pull out, but there was a definite hole. And so I just grabbed my screw gun and dropped an 1/8-inch bit, and I just drilled a hole into the tire, grabbed my plug kit, and plugged it, and been driving on it ever since. But yeah, so I get to Darius, and sure enough, his tire's flat. And I have a compressor in my car, and he's like, oh, what's that? And it's a compressor, check it out. Plugged in the lighter, filled his car up. And I determined that the air was not leaking so fast that he couldn't just run over to the store. And so he drove over, and he got his tire fixed.
And the ironic part, though, is I don't talk about it much on air, but, I have a whole kind of other little brand that I build, comedy, podcast, whatever. And me and my buddy were doing a show this weekend, and I was literally telling him.
Well, give it a plug.
Yeah. So, Hilarious Darius, you can find me on Instagram, HD1816. I put clips. I got like 4 different shows that I do. I got Funny Money with Hilarious Darius, Interesting with Hilarious Darius. I do a show with my best friend called The D&D Experience. And I have a sports show called One Possessions. So I do a lot of kind of production stuff or whatever. And anyway, we were talking about, because he went to the gender reveal, we were talking about, I was telling him how I'm so glad I'm having a daughter first before a son. And I was pretty much saying that I have like a feminine skill set. Like I don't, like I know, like
he's got soft hands.
Soft hand genius, right? And I was saying that, at least now that I have time to acquire those skill sets so I can teach my son how to do this stuff. Because I don't know, building fences and all of that stuff. Like, I just didn't pick it up. So it's funny that we had this conversation literally Saturday. And Monday, my tire goes out. Yeah. I have to call the manliest man I know, Tom, who keeps tools in his car. And it was just, it's really cool to kind of learn that stuff too. Tom was all spitting on his hand. It's like, yeah, this is how you can tell if
I'm spitting on the tire, looking for air bubbles. Yeah.
He's trying to shake my head after. I'm like, yeah, let's wash your hands first, Tom. But no, it was fun. It was definitely eye opening. But y'all keep me in your prayers. And pray for my masculinity in terms of the skill set and stuff like that. So,
hey, let's check here. I'm going to show you guys here because listen. If you don't know how to change a tire, you really should watch this just for the hell of it. How to fix a punctured tire. You guys see this behind me here? This is for you, Darius. Let's see. I've got a screw in my tire. I'm sitting in it. I'm sitting in front of the auto parts store. I hadn't yet bought a little kit for my little sports car here, but I have one now. So the way this works is I've got a screw in between the treads, right in the middle. That's kind of a perfect one to fix. And what you do is you get a little kit, and when it comes with these tough little kind of material covered in goop that'll seal a hole. But the way you get to that is first we're gonna pull the screw out with this, and then this is a bit of a reamer, like a rasp. And I'll end up shoving that in that hole that the screw came out of, just to rough it up. Unless for some reason it doesn't leak. I don't know how long this screw is. Maybe it won't even leak. We'll see. What'll happen is I'll pull that screw out, and then I'll probably throw some spit on it, see if it bubbles.
Okay.
See, but then what you do is you take one of these pieces and you stick it through here,
and slide it in, and then you shove it all the way inside the tire, and then you pull it back out, and this seals the tire. So let's go out there and see how it works. I'm kind of winging it here, free-handed. I don't have anybody to hold the camera with me, but I'll do the best I can. So first thing we're going to do, we're going to go out there with the rasp and the electric screwdriver. Let's see what happens. Okay. Well, and I got to have one hand free for this camera, so let's see what happens. So you can see there it is. I'm going to pull this screw out. Oh, wrong way. Yep.
Pulling a screw out of the tire.
Yeah, I can hear the air coming out of there. So first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to take the rasp you can see here and shove that in there. Okay. And I'll get this screw and I'll throw that away. Okay, so I left that rasp out there in my tire. And now what I'm going to do is I'm going to peel one of these stickies. I don't really know what to call them.
The farmers do this all the time with their tractors.
On my dirt bike years and years ago.
Yeah, as builders do too with their
necessity to
tractors.
fix your own tires. And then as I got into real estate and tractors, you know, you have a problem with your tractor, you just want to fix it yourself. And then I've gone across the country. Now you see what here? I'm going to pinch one in flat here. See? Pinch one in flat. I'm going to feed it through that like it's a needle. Okay, see it coming through? There it goes, pushing it. And I'm going to pull this thing through. Now, if that was a really big hole, I might pull this thing twice, or I might put two of these in. That's what I'm going to do. I'm going to put that in just like that. And I'm going to shove it in until it goes in about more than halfway, and then I'm going to pull it out. I don't know if you can tell, but it's slotted here. So this will slip through once I get it shoved in there. All right, so here we go. This is going to come out. Now this is going to go in. It's going to take two hands, so bear with me.
It's actually a bitch. It's really tough. Can be tough.
Okay. Take a look here. You can see it going in slow.
It can also go too far. You don't want to push it in too far. See, now I pulled it out, and there it is.
Here's the spit test. See if we got any leak. And I can't hear a thing, but the motor's running. But I just plugged it. So now you know how to plug your own tire when you get in a pinch. Like I said, I just now found this a few minutes ago and ran over to an Advanced Auto Parts, bought that little kit. And it wasn't a very big screw, but it was leaking, so that's why it was so hard to shove that thing in. It's pretty tight.
Yeah, it's funny because it's a bitch. Let me tell you, getting that thing, sometimes, like I say, the last one I fixed, the hole was too small. There was no getting it. Mm-hmm. So I grabbed a drill gun and I just drilled a hole. And that's how I fixed it, is I just drilled it out. Anyways, hey, thanks everybody for hanging out. And you guys, please hit that subscribe button if you enjoyed the show. If you want to call the show, right? But main thing is real estate. There's just nothing like it. There's not a quicker way to get wealthy. And, listen, I didn't finish high school. I'm by no means dumb, but it doesn't require any special education. It's just really common sense. And don't be a lazy piece of crap. And, and you'll do well. It's just, you really will. You'll do well.
You don't have to know how to change a tire to make money in real estate.
Well, we'll see. We'll see. Let's not go too far.
You can make money with a feminine skill set in real estate.
Yeah. Well, that I will attest to. That is true. We got Tina proving that out. So, but anyways, but hey, thanks a lot, everybody, and appreciate everybody showing up and hanging out. And please, again, hit that subscribe button, and we'll leave you with some testimonials, and we'll go.
Stop and listen. Time is on a mission to eliminate all the snake oil and the fake gurus that fake y'all. He'll show you how to build an empire, starting with nothing but a desire. All you really need is a good mentor, not a used car bullshit. With time, you'll learn to crush it. Investing like Warren Buffett. With real estate, you cannot procrastinate. Everyone who hesitates is left at the starting gate. Hey, yo, so don't delay and join today. The mentorship and flip anything USA. Go.